What's up, Gaming Rebellion, and welcome to Game Revolt's Rebel Yell Gaming Podcast, where we talk about what's going on in the gaming world and share our thoughts for changing that world for the better, putting indie developers and gamers first. My name is Durak, joined by our head honcho and Game Revolt's founder, Isaiah, and we'd love for you to join us as we have real conversations and navigate the industry. So, let's get into it. But first, a quick thank you to our community of rebels for tuning in. All right, so we're back, and we just wanted to go over, we wanted to talk about what's going on with Ubisoft, what happened with Concord, and AAA gaming companies in general, and why they just keep missing their mark.
I wanted to bring up this concept that I think some of these game companies, and really the games that they're coming out with, they're too big to succeed. If you look at, say, Concord, which reportedly has spent $400 million developing the game, that means you have to make at least $400 million in order for the game to be to just break even, being successful. Right? And if you're investing hundreds of millions of dollars, it's because you expect hundreds of millions of dollars in return. Right. So obviously you can't stop at that 400 million, and I'm sure they expected this to be a franchise that would make billions of dollars. So when your expectations are so high, it makes it very hard for you to succeed, especially in this kind of industry where you look at market saturation and whatnot. You see who you're competing with. You're competing with free-to-play games.
Right. Yeah, Overwatch and Valorant.
Exactly. And coming from two of the biggest, most legendary game companies in history, you're competing against that.
Right.
Did you really set yourself up to succeed? I would say no. And to start this off, I just want to ask a question. Why do you think these games cost so much money today?
I really wish I had an answer for you, because quite frankly, it seems like these companies, they're just, they make so much money on the regular that they can afford to throw their money at whatever they want. And if they think it's going to make them money back, they can afford to do so. And I truly don't believe games like Concord really cost that much money, because what is it that they're doing that's so groundbreaking compared to Overwatch and Valorant, other hero shooter games that would require that amount of money, especially when you consider the fact that it took 8 years for them to create it. So like, even if it seemed like a good idea at first, where they could say, well, everyone's getting into these games, it seems really popular, let's get something out there as quick as possible, apparently didn't cross their mind. It's just like, oh, we'll just make one of those, and then when it comes out, we'll be on the same level as these guys. It's just like, clearly someone up top who has access to the direction of what they do with their money or where the games go are created and whatnot has no idea what I blame them. But I really don't know what they spent their money.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine. I understand that making games today is a lot harder than it was in the past. Now you have teams of people, sometimes hundreds, thousands of people, all working together to create a game. But then you look at how some smaller developers are able to handle it, and their teams are not as big. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that if you can create, you take Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate, now, let's be honest, Larian has
they killed
like 400 people working on Baldur's Gate, so it's not a small studio. It's not like a small indie studio by any means. But they were resourceful enough, and you see the product that they were able to make, and it's like, yo, how? This game is so far and above and beyond anything else that is coming out today, and you're hitting a market that, I mean, Dungeons and Dragons type game? Like, who's making those kind of games? It was the first time I played a game like that.
Same.
So you're hitting a completely new market with this, and you're not you know, you're setting yourself up for success in that way. It's funny because you think Xbox, that when they were getting sued by the FTC with the whole Blizzard deal, that memo came out where I believe it was Phil Spencer or somebody at Xbox Gaming that said they are not even looking at acquiring Larian for Game Pass, because who the heck would want to play a tabletop RPG?
which is
Nobody's trying to
wild.
play that, right? And they were chasing what was that game called? Redfall? They spent their
My
money
God,
on
yes.
that instead. It's so interesting to see how people at the top of these companies, where they believe the trends are.
Mm-mm.
These are business people. They've been in the industry for years and years and years, and yet they're constantly so off the mark when it comes to consumer expectations and what the consumer is actually going to gravitate towards.
Right.
The success we saw earlier this year with Pow World. Who was
Yeah.
looking at that? Who thought that was going to take off the way it did? And their budget was like, I think I saw somewhere it was like 7 million or something like that. It was low in comparison to like Concord. It's like 2% of their budget.
Right.
So how is it that Power World could succeed in such a massive way and Concord doesn't, with all these resources being thrown at it? I don't understand that part.
That's the thing, though. It's fascinating to see, because you have people like Pocket Pair who made Pow World, and this was just supposed to be Pokemon with guns. Like, you hear that,
Right.
and you're just like, for people who are fans of the Pokemon franchise or whatever, I know at least for me, when I heard that, I was like, that sounds kind of crazy. I want to see what that's about. And apparently a lot of other people had the same thought, because you think of that and you're just like, oh, it's like Pokemon for adults. And at that time, at least when I heard about it, I know a lot of people are kind of frustrated how with the games that were coming out for Pokemon seemed to pander more towards kids, which Pokemon technically has done that for years. That's what they market towards. But it kind of feels like us adults who are fans kind of got left behind in the dust. So when you hear something like that, where it feels like, oh, it's Pokemon for adults in a sense, at least, again, that's where my thought process was. I'm sure when they created that, they already had that idea in mind, especially after you see with the creatures that they created. They
Right.
knew what gamers were looking for. So that's what they did. They made something that they knew that they can hit this market, and they think they at least had an idea that it would do well. Meanwhile, you look at this these other companies who like overlooked what Larian Studios was working on, because they're like, well, like you said, it's like, oh, a tabletop game, like no one's gonna want to play that. Little did they know, there's a huge market for people who love Dungeons and Dragons. They know what their fans are looking for. They know what their fans like, so that's what they like targeted. And it's when you look at who runs these large corporations, this goes again into the fact that it's clearly not a gamer, because if it was a gamer, they might have seen that and said, this might be something interesting. This might be something that can make us money. They could have picked them up. But no, you have business people running these corporations. They don't see the potential in some of these ideas. They just see their numbers, what makes sense, what made sense in the past, what the trends are, and that's what they chase. And then when they
Right.
mess up, this is what happens. But
Have you ever heard the saying that the generals are always fighting the last war?
yes,
These people that are, now, don't get me wrong, looking at the past is good in a sense, but you can't have your mind stuck there. And all you're looking at is how wars were fought in the past. You're not looking towards the future and seeing in real time things are changing,
right.
and
You have to
how
adapt.
be more forward thinking.
Right.
It's crazy how you look at these people, very smart, business-minded people, and all they're doing are chasing trends. They're like, oh, well, Fortnite was popular, this was popular, this was popular, so this is what we should be doing.
Right.
And then you have other people that are saying, this is, Larry, with the tabletop thing, this is an underserved market. Let's give them the greatest experience that they can have. Our world, the same thing. Like you were saying, Pokemon has mainly catered to kids. Kids eventually grow up. Pokemon's been around for, what, 20 plus years now at this point?
think so, yeah.
So, you know, those people who used to like Pokemon are now adults, and now there is an underserved market, and Pocket Pair recognized that. And I think that's really where the genius is recognizing where are these underserved markets and delivering the best product that you can towards them instead of this constant need to chase old trends, not forward thinking. And then when we're talking about why these games cost so much, look at the marketing with, say, Pocket Bear. I didn't see a commercial for it. It was my friend telling me, hey, look at this game. This game's cool. And then I told my brother, and then I told, and it did, like, this change just started going on from word of mouth, like, yo, this game is pretty dope. But you look at how a lot of these AAA games are, a lot of their money is spent on bloated marketing budgets. In some cases, you look at Call of Duty, Battlefield, they're spending just as much on marketing as they did on developing the game themselves.
Right.
Now, the interesting thing with Concord is I also didn't see any advertising for this game.
I didn't
don't
know it
know what
existed.
the heck they spent the money on. So you can't even blame the marketing budget in this case.
Right.
I don't think you can. I don't know what their marketing budget was, but everyone I've known, I've talked to, didn't see much marketing at all. So I really wish we could get the financial data and see how was this money being spent. I'd be so curious to see.
Yeah.
What did they do in it? They, like you said, they didn't do anything innovative. At least nothing I saw from the game was innovative. The game didn't look cool to me, so that's why. And I played Overwatch already. I don't need to play, another Overwatch clone.
Yeah. It's like if you find something that works for you, like you don't necessarily need anything unless it's something innovative. Like I played Overwatch for a while, and although it's not my particular style of gameplay, I don't particularly care for like the PvP type games, but like I'll play them. Overwatch was fun. I didn't have a chance to play Valorant, but I've seen gameplay of that, and I saw how they kind of switched it up a little bit with the formula, although it was like more or less the same. But like it was still its own thing, kind of similar how when Fortnite came out, it was supposed to be like it was supposed to replace PUBG, and then they came out with blanking on the name. It'll come to me. But anyway, so like you have these games that will come out. They use the similar formula, but they try to switch it up. But Concord didn't seem to have that same aspect. And
right, what about this game makes it yours?
Right. And for something that took, again, that amount of money, and you had 8 years to like kind of switch up the direction, because like you have a chance to kind of like look at what's going on in the market. You see your quote unquote rivals out there. You see Overwatch and Valorant, and you see how they're doing, and you can keep an eye on their numbers and whatnot. At any point, you could have just been like, okay, you know what? It seems like they tried to do that. The fans didn't like that. We could actually capitalize on that and make it work for our game when we finally release it. But again, like you said, I didn't even hear about this game until they made an announcement. It's like they're going to be shutting down the servers. I'm like, what? Shutting down the servers of what? And then I started watching the videos and reading the articles. I'm like, what is this? I never heard of it. Granted, I don't really watch TV like that, so it's not like I would have seen a commercial unless it's
But
on
the thing
YouTube,
is like you're in these gaming spheres, right? Like you're
right.
on Reddit. You hear about even these small random little games. But how the heck did you not hear about this $400 million behemoth that Sony is publishing?
Right. And it goes back into like, what the hell did you spend your money? Like who ran this whole campaign? Like who did this? Like they're the people who need to step down. I know they had the lead developer director step down from Firewalk Studios. I'm just like, we're just literally just talking about that. Like for what? Why did they have to step down? Like whoever in Sony made the decision to spend that money on just the development and nothing else, if they claim to actually spend money on marketing, like they need to be fired because that's not on them.
Well,
But
I think
that's just me.
they also need to be fired because if you were given a $400 million budget and you couldn't make a game that could last longer than 2 weeks,
That's fair.
Come
Uh,
on.
I do feel bad for them though. I'm sure like 8 years is a lot to like kind of throw away.
8 years, $400 million, and you couldn't make a game that could last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's crazy when you think about like Vampire Survivor has made more money, and that game costs like 99 cents,
Uh,
and they're still rolling out updates to that game.
no, but yeah, that goes back into the problem though. It's just like these companies. I mean, of course, they can afford to spend that amount of money, but it's like the fact that you can take a game like that, spend 99 cents or whatever to like make it. You have developers who solo build a game like Stardew Valley, and it's like and they can make so much money off of that. It's just like how out of touch are these large companies that they can't even produce a game that people want for a small amount of money? It's just like you have the money to do it, great. That's cool. Do what you want. I'm not going to tell you how to use your money, but at least try to be smart about it. If you have fans, you have a following, you want to make something that lasts, at least put in the effort. Like throwing money at everything doesn't solve every problem, but I don't know. What are your
Yeah, there's
thoughts?
that, and then you have on the other side, you have remember No Man's Sky that came out like
Yes.
almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
They had a bad launch too,
Mm.
but they were a small team, and they were making a game that people actually wanted. That was the issue, was that they
Mm.
were making a game people wanted. They just didn't deliver on what people wanted,
Mm.
and they continuously updated the game until eventually it's great. I mean, look, if you haven't played it yet, I would say I recommend it. It's a great game.
Oh yeah, it is fun. I kind of
Whereas
want to
with
get back
Concord,
into it.
you made a game that nobody was really asking for.
Mm.
You made a game that already exists.
Yep, you made a clone.
Yeah, so it's crazy that they realized they needed to pull the plug as fast as they did.
Yeah, that I would have at least tried to keep it out there. I mean, I know it costs money to keep live service games running, but
It does, and not only does it cost money, it costs your reputation too. Every time people look, hey, you see that game that Sony released? It only has 60 people playing it.
I
You'd
should.
rather just get rid of it,
That's
start
fair.
over.
Just take old Yeller out back. It's like, sorry, boy, you gotta go.
Yeah, just seriously.
I mean, I truly do feel bad for them though, because again, like that is a lot of time and effort just to end up putting it down. Although I do hear talk that they're gonna try to do a offline version just to like I guess keep it alive. And who knows, maybe in a few months or a year or so from now, it might like pick up again. But I mean, crazier things have happened, but just the fact that it got to this point is ridiculous. I still can't believe that I never heard of it. And I try to stay on top of stuff. It's much harder to stay on top of like the indie game industry because there are so many of them. But like for something from Sony, it's just like nothing. And then all of a sudden, sorry guys. Like sorry for what?
So how much of a role do you think the fact that it's another live service game, that do you think people are just tired of having so many live service games? Because if you're playing these games, you're usually pretty invested in them, and
Yeah,
you only have but so much attention you can give
right.
to World of Warcraft, Overwatch, Diablo, all of these continuously updated games.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that the other day because I know that's another issue that people have to deal with. It's just like a lot of these companies they try to get these live service games out there because it's cheaper for them to just run the live service and then they can do their battle passes or whatever, quote, quote, and they
I don't
can
know if I
just
would say cheaper. It definitely makes more money if you can do it successfully.
that makes more sense. It's more lucrative. Gotcha. But yeah, the fact that they're able to like that's their focus right now is like, oh, live service is a thing. We have to do that. It's like, you know what? If that's your prerogative, that's fine. But at the end of the day, like games are going to keep coming out regularly. And while I appreciate when they have live service games where they like do updates that are actually substantial and are actually like contributing to the actual gameplay itself, it's like, all right, that's cool. But at the same time, you also have to understand that at some point people are gonna get tired of it, get bored of it, or they'll see a new shiny game come out and they're gonna want to focus on that. Whether or not they come back or not is another story. And I know that's another thing that gaming companies are trying to do right now is to increase retention for the people who play their live service games. But again, it's like for me personally, I'm not going to play the same game forever. One game that I play a lot, I haven't played for a little while, is Final Fantasy 14, and I love that game. I love what they've done with the game. I'm sure they've made mistakes, and that's what it doesn't concern me as much because they typically listen to the community and they fix it, and then they move on. And I love the fact that if I decide to take a break from Final Fantasy 14, like I can to play other games, and then I could come back and like kind of pick up where I left off. Although I'll be completely lost when I go back on because I need to like take notes when I play games. I kind of miss the times where you could take a game, play it to completion, and that's it. Like if DLC is one thing, it's kind of hit or miss for me. But like another example being like the Persona series. Like I
Oh yeah.
freaking love Persona. Like I love the fact that I can play the game. It has replay value, so if I want to experience that again, I can. Um, that's the only like gripe I will say that I have about live service games is that like if I want to kind of recapture that feeling of like going through that again, I have to start over or I have to create a new character or like again like I'll feel lost when I go back into it. So like I don't mind them. They definitely have their place in the industry, but I don't think they should be the focus. I think they should make more games more akin to like Persona and what. No offense to the games that are out there that are live service that are good, like Pow World and whatnot. I think that's awesome. Again, I love that I can go to them and
But
even
does Pow World count as a live service game? I'm not really sure about that.
I mean
You
they
you could just play that game completely single player.
oh yeah, you're right. But like they do have the server yeah, I guess you could say that. I do
I guess
like
that's
that
like defining what is a live service game or
sure.
whatever.
They do say though, they Pocket Pair made a statement that like they don't care that if you decide to stop playing for a while, go play the games that you like. I feel like more of that energy should be incorporated into uh gaming in general. Like because again, there are so many games out there. There are more that are coming out on a regular basis, and you're gonna want to play them. So it should be okay to like stop playing a game, especially a live service game, to go play another one and being able to come. I don't really know what their goal is with that because again, they're trying to increase player retention, but I don't think that should be the focus. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, well, I hear a lot of companies talk about how they have no problem with you going out and trying other games, but then it feels like you're almost punished in a way when you don't play that game. Like if
Right.
you don't sign up, it's like, oh, you got to get your daily login reward, you got to get your weekly,
Yeah,
and
that.
if you don't
You feel
do
like you
these
missed
things
out.
every week, you're gonna be
Mhm.
behind, and it's like,
Right.
well, then I can't really play other games. You want me to stay in your ecosystem
See,
the
that
entire
crap.
time.
Yeah, I can't like that makes me lose interest in a game. It's like the fact that I miss out on stuff. I don't know how you would fix that in general because they have to find ways for you to come back. But I will say I appreciate when like especially some mobile games they have
Well, you just release new content. You don't have to.
you don't have to like force them. It's like oh you have to come this many days in a row type deal.
Right. Right. Like a lot of games are taking that mobile game perspective of of you need to will limit you in what you can do and you have like this amount of energy or something like that and you can only play this much and then you got to come back tomorrow if you want to finish. It's like,
Right.
bro, I just want to that's what I love about Baldur's Gate 3. I could beat the game today if I wanted to.
Yeah.
It's so long and, that probably won't happen, but
Right.
you do have that option available to you. And I think people are starting to see now Elden Ring, Baldur's Gate, where people are appreciating more. I think even God of War. I didn't play that one. I'm thinking about the previous games of the year. Uh, when was the last time we had a live services game of the year? I don't even remember.
Oh, I have no idea.
But anyways, people are starting to appreciate, their time more and realizing that these other games kind of waste your time in a lot of ways that single player games can't. They are constantly they want you to stay in the game, stay involved. Every moment is action packed or whatever. It doesn't have to always be action packed, but like story driven games,
Right.
they keep you invested without it being you're gonna fall behind
Right.
uh if you don't do what we say.
No, yeah. And I feel like Baldur's Gate 3 is like an excellent example of that because even though they don't do that where you feel like you miss out on something, it has enough content where you you're kind of enticed to go back and continue to play because like you can play from so many different perspectives and the story can change depending on which choices you make. So like the replay value is phenomenal. And it's just a matter of when you feel like, you know what, I want to see what would happen if I did this. And I feel that the character they make, the Dark Urge, is a perfect example of that because you can play your character the way you want to play it. If you want to do your custom, or if you want to pick one of the stock characters and play from their perspective, and then you have the Dark Urge, which is like, I wonder how this is going to play out. And it's just like I love games that have that type of aspect to it because again it entices you to play but it doesn't force you. It's not telling you, oh, you have to come back this many set of days. I don't like to be told what to do when it comes to playing games. Like I really hate when you start a game for the first time and when they have like the tutorial or whatever. I don't mind having the option for the tutorial. I hate when it forces you to do exactly what they tell you to do until
Yeah,
you're like let go. That just drives me
the hand
crazy.
holding. Yeah.
Yeah, the hand holding. It's like kind of that aspect. Like I love that you can just jump into games like these rather, Baldur's Gate, even Elden Ring, and even as chaotic as it can be, it's rewarding as you explore. You're not.
Dude, my first time going through Elden Ring, I didn't even know there was a tutorial. I accidentally missed the entire thing.
The fact that you could do that is actually kind of awesome, though.
Yeah. Had no idea until hours into the game I went back to that area and I was like, oh wait, what the heck?
It's like there's so much you can miss. Just like you just blink and you miss it. But that
Yeah,
game is
so
punishing.
about getting back to
Yeah.
Concord and how these big games are just not hitting the mark. I think something else, you look at Ubisoft's soon to be released, what we thought was soon to be released has been delayed now, Assassin's Creed Shadow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how that's just not resonating as much with players. You have any thoughts on that?
Honestly, the funny thing is I've been wanting to get into Assassin's Creed for a while because the first Assassin's Creed game I ever played was Assassin's Creed Black Flag, and that's the one where you're a pirate.
Right,
And
right.
I remember getting that for the Xbox Elite, and I don't even remember where I got the Xbox. I think someone gave it to me, but that was the first game I got. I was just like, all right, this looks interesting. I didn't really care to play it, but after playing it for a while, I was just like, this is really really good. And a lot of gamers would argue that it was like probably one of their best ones in the whole series, and it kind of made me want to play the other Assassin's Creed games just to see like what the full story is, because apparently there's a certain level of continuity between each of the installments, and I love when games have that. But when they announced, well, again, like I didn't really play any other ones except for the original. I haven't gotten that far at the time.
Right.
But when they announced this new one coming out, it kind of baffled me a little bit because I know it's supposed to have the whole Asian Japanese setting where they have samurai and ninja. And I was like, all right,
Which
that's
is
a
really
cool
cool.
aspect. But it seems so far removed from the originals, where again, I'm not as fully familiar with the entire story as many other fans are. But I did hear that there was a lot of backlash as far as what they were doing with the game. Now you have this samurai who happens to be a black guy, and I thought it was kind of an interesting choice because a lot of these games are somewhat historical. I don't know how accurate that is, but it kind of seemed like Ubisoft had an agenda with that there. Um, uh,
I've heard
I,
that. Yeah.
I know that they're trying to, or at least from my perspective, it seems like they're trying to have some kind of inclusion or whatnot. I mean, if that's your prerogative, it is what it is. Like me personally being a black person, like I don't need representation in such a manner. Is like, if you want to make a Black Samurai, that's totally cool. But if it's not integral to the story, then I'd rather you not do that. But again,
what I thought was interesting about that whole thing was not only uh, Yasuke is supposedly not black, like African American. He's African,
yeah.
right?
Mhm.
But they have hip hop songs playing as this thing. And it's like,
I did not
huh?
know that.
Yeah, like what? Nothing screams feudal Japan like hip hop. And
So they just did not care. Okay, I got it.
yeah, so
That kind of
it's
annoys me.
such a weird direction to take the game.
That
When
really
it's
annoys
like,
me.
have you played Ghost of Tsushima?
I have not. I've only seen games.
Oh my goodness, that game was so cool. I love, cause I didn't even know a lot about the whole Mongol invasion and whatnot,
Mhm.
and I don't know how historically accurate this is either.
Mhm.
But they bring up historical figures. Genghis Khan, he's not in it, but it's like his nephew or something like that
Okay.
is invading. But it was really cool to see that you have to go around rallying the people to try to thwart the invaders.
Mhm.
It was really cool to play this game that's historically accurate, and now you have this other game which is pretending to be historically accurate. Like they have some historian who quotes himself as saying most people agree that this is what happened, and it's really strange. Like he's this not to be racist, but I guess I'm being racist. Whatever.
No,
This white guy's telling Japanese people what their history is. It's like I can understand why they would be upset about this.
right.
And it's annoying. People, like you said, don't like being told what to do. But
Mhm.
then I feel like it's even worse when you're telling them like their historical records aren't true. And there was this guy who was this legendary samurai. It's like there's no records to say that he even was a samurai. You're just making
Right.
stuff up
Right.
at this point. So
And it's not too like far removed to say that Ubisoft doesn't take some liberties with their stories and history in Assassin's Creed, but I feel like with this one in particular, they took it to like a new level, because while I'm all for, like, I'd prefer the historical accuracy, and I don't mind when games like take their liberties and stuff, but I just want them to say that. It's like, say, listen, just so you guys know, this is not completely historically accurate. This is, I mean, it's supposed to speak for itself, because like, oh, assassins in every age or whatever. But at the same time, it's just like, all right, if you're creating something, you're making something up, just make sure you're clear about that. Instead of saying, like, most people agree that this was probably historically accurate. It's like, don't say that. Don't say that.
yeah, especially when you're telling these people like
Right. What their history is. Because don't people do that to us all the time?
it's so crazy.
It's like, excuse me. But yeah, once I saw that, now you're telling me that he listens to hip hop music.
Yeah, it's like, dog, what are we doing?
Mm.
What are we doing?
Nah, see, you're doing too much. You're doing way too much. And I think that's one of the issues that Ubisoft is dealing with in general, because I know they're struggling right now with meeting their numbers and whatnot. I think there was
Oh yeah, well they came out with Star Wars Outlaw
yeah.
recently, where you're an outlaw, but you kill the police. You don't. It's like I don't know what I was expecting,
Uh,
but if you're an outlaw, I'm thinking GTA.
yeah. Mm.
Like you can rob people, but it's like you're this good guy or girl or whatever, and you can't kill animals. It's just so PC.
Mm.
It's very tame.
Mhm.
Why are you even an outlaw? You might as well have been a Jedi or something, and if you wanted to be like this.
Right. And it just goes to show that even though that Ubisoft had the opportunity to use the Star Wars IP, that they decided to go in that direction, because clearly what they're doing is they're just trying to reach a market that, I don't know if you would say a market that exists or not, but they they're trying to appeal to a certain crowd with this, with the Outlaws, and then with Assassin's Creed, and they're destroying. Maybe not destroying is too strong a word. They're just changing they're affecting the integrity of the games, the IPs themselves, to fit their own narratives, their own agendas, because clearly they just want their money. That's really the bottom line. They want to make their money, and they're thinking this is the best way to do it. And you look at their subscription model for the Outlaws thing, and it's just like ridiculous the numbers they were trying to put out because they just want people to subscribe to them. But I also think that has to do with the fact that they're struggling right now. They're just trying to make up for all the losses they've been taking recently.
And they weren't struggling at one point, right? They were really a big publisher in the industry.
They were doing
and I
really
think
well.
they're still operating and pretending. Maybe now they're realizing they're not, but they were at least pretending as if they still were this giant behemoth, and they were worth multiple billions of dollars. I think they're still a $1 billion company at this point. But their price has fallen dramatically in recent years because they continuously put out games that people don't resonate with.
Right.
And I think they really need a return to form, going back to what made your games good before you were pushing an agenda. When you were making Rayman, there's no agenda in Rayman.
Right.
It's basic platforming, things like that.
That's all it was. People creating fun games. That's what that's what I would imagine they wanted when they picked up Rayman. They just wanted games that were fun that people would pick up and buy. I mean, of course, money tends to be the bottom line in most of these situations, but it's like if you're trying to figure out what's going wrong, like, yeah, look at what was doing well in the past. Like, try to come up with a plan. Say, like, you know what? This isn't working. Let's see what worked in the past. Let's try to adapt. That's the key word right there, is adapt, because no one seems to be doing that or innovating for that matter. And that also leads to the fact that, again, like the people who are running these companies clearly are not gamers, because they don't know they don't care what we want. They just want their money. And when they realize they're not making their money, it's just like, what's going on? Like, well, what do we do? Like, let's put out another game that nobody asked for and just hope people will buy it. Let's just throw more money at the problem. It's just like, I mean, again, they can do what they want. It's their money. But if they want to succeed, like, doing the same thing over and over is not going to fix it. But that's just
the Ubisoft CEO, he comes out saying our goal is not to push any specific agenda or whatever. And the thing is, it's nice of you to say this, but you actually have to prove that.
Yeah.
Because when people who play your games or see even how you run your company.
Right.
And you have different incentives that are for certain people and not other people.
Right. People can see you. You're a publicly listed
company.
company.
We can see that you do have an agenda. You are trying to push a narrative.
Right.
So you saying that doesn't mean anything. You're going to have to start proving that, and that's going to take a while to do.
Yep. Yeah.
Right? You didn't lose your reputation overnight, and you're not going to regain it overnight either. No. But you can start by just making a good game. Make a good game, and people will begin to forget all this other stuff.
Right. If they see you're like doing the right thing, then they'll be like, okay, you might have messed up in the past, but you know what? You're doing right now, so I'm gonna stick with you guys. Like, you're gonna have some loyal fans, and you're gonna have people who are fans of some of the previous works that they've loved in the past, like Assassin's Creed. I mean, I really don't know what people are really gonna think about the one that's coming out now. Again, you can do what you want, but if they can't even get a grip on what it is their fans want, like, you're gonna lose them. Like, forget about the money. Like, they're the ones bringing you the money. If they stop buying your games, like, you're screwed. Like, you need to figure that out.
I'm looking at an article on PC Gamer. The title reads, Ubisoft CEO tries to mollify gamers who won't stop being mad about a Black Samurai in Assassin's Creed games. Assassin's Creed Shadows. And it's like, okay. Stop making your games for these people. Whoever wrote this article doesn't want to buy your game. He wants you to give the game to him for free so that he can make money off of it. The people who actually want to... You know what this reminds me of, too? Is, do you remember back when they were first making the original the Sonic movie?
Oh yeah.
And they came out with that ugly, disgusting looking model of Sonic. I remember reading people say, "Oh, it's art. You shouldn't have a say in, how it looks." And Sega was like, "Hey, look, we hear you. We're gonna change it." And they're like, "Oh, why are you kowtowing to these people that are it, bro? These people are the ones who are gonna buy the ticket.
Right.
These people are the ones who are going to support you. Why are you
Absolutely.
so angry against the people who support, who likes like that? Those are the people who are mad about it, right? These are
Right.
If you've never seen Sonic before, you probably didn't even know that it looked weird. But if you are a fan of Sonic games in the past and whatnot, you're like, wait, what the heck is this?
It's
Who
like,
made
what is
this?
this? Yes. Whose
And
idea
Sega
was this?
responded, they corrected it, and not for nothing, it was a good movie.
Yeah.
I
I
enjoyed
enjoyed
it. I can't wait for the next one with Shadow that's
hell
gonna come
yeah.
out.
Ooh, nostalgia.
Right?
But yeah, I mean, I
It's crazy what
really,
happens when you actually listen to the people who pay you instead of the people who just talk crap online.
it's crazy how that works too, because it's like, wow, like the fix was just listen to the fans. Like, I get it. I know, like, not everyone wants to try to not appeal. The word's not appeal, but it's like not to give the people what they want, because they're quote unquote whining about it or whatever. But it's like these are the fans. Like they know what the story is, the original story is. They know what they want to see, and they like everyone else knows you're capable of better than this. Like that. I mean, it clearly wouldn't have been nearly as popular if it released as it did. Like, I'm so glad that they actually did it. Like, yeah, it I know some of the actors weren't too happy about it because they felt like they were really just like giving the people what they wanted. But look what you got from it. You got something that was really amazing.
Imagine that giving the people what they want, and that's considered a bad thing today. That's crazy.
Crazy, right? Give them what they want. It's like this is for them, right? So give them what they want. It's like if I came to give you like a dish for your birthday or whatever, and it was something that you don't like, and then I get mad about it because you don't like it. It's like, did you ask for that?
Right. And it's not just that simple, because you're asking people to give up their
I'll
money
give
for
their
this
money.
too,
Yeah, you're right.
right? So it's even worse in that regard. I'm supposed to pay you. You're delivering a service to me. And the thing is, you hear this said a lot, and I believe this to be true. If you don't like it, don't buy it.
Yep.
But the problem is, you look at Concord, people didn't like it, so they didn't buy it. And now they're upset. It's like, oh, look at these guys, they're making Concord fail. It's like, no.
No, y'all effed up. Get it straight.
And if you're Ubisoft now, you should be looking at Concord and thinking, do we need one of these under our belt? You don't even have to look at Concord. Look at Star Wars Outlaw. They say in the report that it undersold. So, yeah. I think that's about all I got for that.
But yeah, I mean, I really don't know what else to say as far as why these AAA companies just keep missing their mark, because the answer is right there. It's like, listen to your fans. Like, you want their money. Just if you give them what they ask for, if you show them what you're working on, they say, this ain't it. I'll buy it if it has this or whatever. I mean, not too many people will be that straightforward, but they'll tell you if they think it's trash or not. And it's
Listening
not
to
difficult.
feedback. That's what you have to do. Listen to feedback. That's
Yeah.
what Sega did.
Yeah.
They listened to feedback and they said, hey, y'all think this is trash? We're going to fix it. The problem is that these other people will say, y'all think this is trash? Then don't buy it. And then it's
And then
not
they
bought.
get
And it's like,
mad.
why did you not buy it?
We made this for you.
Yeah. You talentless freak.
There's clearly a big disconnect in the industry right now. And that's one of the reasons why I feel like we need to give more attention to these indie developers in general, because they're gamers like us. They get it. They understand. It's like they'll listen to feedback. Most of them will. I'm sure some people, they don't want to hear it, but for the ones that do, like, they'll give you what they want. That's how we get games like freaking Pow World, Pokemon with guns. Like, who would have thought? Like, then you get games like Baldur's Gate 3. That's supposed to be based off of a tabletop game that nobody would want to play that. It's like it's
They spent
amazing.
They spent like 3 years, I think, in early access or something like that. Baldur's Gate. I could be wrong on the timeline, but they spent a good portion of time in early access just getting Act 1 down. They just let people play and said, "Hey, we want to hear your feedback." Act 1 is immaculate. It is so
amazing. Oh my god, it's amazing.
And would it have been if they didn't do that? If they weren't constantly listening to feedback and continuously updating and improving on it?
Right.
Maybe not. Maybe it would, maybe not,
Right.
But the fact is they did listen and they won Game of the Year. They probably should have won everything at the Game Awards that year, but they had to give awards to other people too.
Yeah. They really they put everything into it and they listened to the fans, and I love that. And I'm sure that the majority of feedback that they got was from people who actually played Dungeons and Dragons. So they got the people who would fact check them and whatnot. I mean, I don't know the actual process, but I'm sure they did. And they really created a game that people wanted. And even when it launched, and there were some aspects that people were just like, I don't know, I kind of wish you had this, I wish you had that. They're still adding stuff to the game,
They're still
little
adding.
fixes
It's
and
been
stuff
over
like that. They let them have the mods and stuff. It's just I love that. It's not their game, so to speak. It's a community game. It's this is our gift to you. I love it. I'd pay so much more than I paid to play that game. It's beautiful. It's amazing.
Yeah, see, that game, I have no problem buying the collector's edition and stuff because it was fantastic. And I want to see them do. I played Divinity Original Sin 2, and I saw how good that game was. I was like, oh, I've got to support them for their next game.
Yes.
Now I'm saying that for hopefully whatever Baldur's Gate 4 or whatever IP they decide to come out with next.
Right. Because we need more of that in the landscape. No more of this nonsense that these companies just throw money at their problems and just hope it sticks. And if it doesn't stick, they move on to the next thing, where they'll borrow IPs from famous companies or whatnot to make a game just because they think you'll buy it and think that they'll make a profit off of it. It's gaming is more than that. It's more than just
the IP without even really understanding the IP, because Baldur's Gate borrowed the Dungeons and Dragons IP. So it's not like that in itself is wrong, but you have to really understand why fans like it. Everything there is to know about that IP.
Right. You just don't
and instead, you have people that they have their story that they want to tell, but nobody would listen. So they have to steal someone else's IP and then change it to tell the story that they want to tell. It's how do you think that you know more than, George Lucas?
Right. It's if they think they could take it and make it better, it's just are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That's not your job. And then they want to wonder why it's not selling. It's literally when they take freaking manga and they adapt it to anime, but then they switch it up. They'll change parts of the story that were integral to the actual story, thinking that, I don't know what they think, that they'll make it better or whatever. It's no one's paying you to make it better. Just adapt it to a different medium.
We want the adaptation. We want to see.
Yes. Don't fix it. No one asked you to fix it. I don't know. It's just, it's clearly a disconnect. And again, I don't know what will fix it, because you could tell them this. Well, you already said it. Just don't buy their stuff. Eventually, they'll get it. Eventually.
Yeah, that's the thing. More people need to wake up to that. A lot of people think for some reason, oh, I have to buy this. I buy this every year, so I got to buy the next lot this year.
You don't.
You don't.
No.
If you want to see change, just don't buy it. There's other things out there.
Yeah.
Expand your horizons. Find a new genre. Try something else out.
You're right. I was just saying that the other day, how I was telling you how I've been such a big fan of Nintendo, but after this whole thing with the lawsuit and whatnot, if they actually won their thing, I don't think I'll ever buy another Pokemon game again. And I'm a diehard fan. I freaking love Pokemon. So
I love Pokemon too.
So if they actually won this, I'm not buying any more Pokemon. It's just and Nintendo can sit and spin.
And it's sad because I that would hurt me, but it's at the same time, how else do you get the message across?
Right. Absolutely right.
But yeah, I guess that will probably do it for today.
All right. Well, this was cool. We'll see you guys on the next one. And if you have any questions, you can always hit us up on our social media at Game Revolt LLC, or check us out on gamerevolt.org. Check out our blog, gamerevolt.blog. And I believe that's it. It was fun. Happy talking to you guys, and happy gaming.
Thanks, everyone. Peace.
Well, that about wraps it up for today's episode, Rebels. Don't forget to subscribe and stay informed on all things gaming. We've got some exciting projects coming up, so you won't want to miss what's next. We'd like to thank you again for tuning in and joining the rebellion. Until next time, happy gaming.